Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Lavish T. Williams, and tonight we got a great show. It's an informative show, and we got a couple guests in the house today. On Tuesday, today's show, we're going to be talking about what is the purpose, the goal, the responsibility of the black man protecting the black woman. On today's show, the bigger yard. All right, so today we got Marvin Cotton. Go ahead, Marvin. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Let them know who you are. Tell them about you.
Yeah, thanks for opening up your house to me. I'm Marvin Cotton Jr. From the Bigger Yard podcast show, and today we're going to be talking about the black man responsibility to protect the black woman. This topic really keeps me up at night. Over the last few months, there seems to be a uptick or an increase in women not being protected in the city of Detroit, and really all over the country. This is a big problem, and it seems like a lot of the women in our community, the black community, is being hurt, raped, murdered by those that look just like them. And this is the reason that I really want to talk about this subject. What is our responsibility in protecting the women? A lot of things seems to come from our hands, and how do we use our hands to better be effective in protecting the women in our community, and what is our responsibility? So I asked a very special guest to join us today. He does a lot of work in the community. He's boots on the ground all the time. He's always in the community. So he has a special perspective with the heartbeat of what's going on in the community. So I brought him here in order for him to kind of share with us maybe some ideas and what he's doing in order to address this problem, and what we can do to better help him and others that's out in the community that's doing things to make things better as well. I brought with us today Minister Troy Muhammad from Mosque Number 1 in the city of Detroit.
Well, I like that applause right there, man. That's
Yeah.
we top of the line
Yeah.
in here this evening, man. So, I'm definitely honored to be on here with you, Brother Marvin, and Brother Lavish, the lavish one. It's always an honor to be or to link up with men who, I've heard nothing but good things about and seen nothing but good works come from both of you. So it's an honor to be here. And it's a very important conversation to have, because if we don't get together as men and have this type of conversation on bettering conditions for our women and our children, then it never gets resolved, because that what you're talking about, that negative energy is coming from us or coming from those who look like us. So it's very important that we pull the brothers' coats and bring everybody together and start the conversation. And that's what shows like this is about. So I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. Like I said, this has been keeping me up for weeks and months. This is a real big problem. And it seems like when I was at the height of dealing with this internally, like, what can I do? What can I do? You put out a call on Instagram, on social media. You asked for black men from the community to show up to Mosque Number 1, and you was asking everybody to make a new commitment, renew the commitment that they have to their families, to their community, to their neighborhoods. Could you tell us a little bit about that? What inspired that?
Well, I mean, that's the Million Man March, right? That's the commitment that was made at the Million Man March, the recommitment, because the Million Man March, called by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, was about black men atoning for the sins that they've committed and the bad things that they've done, and not living up to the men that we're supposed to be. So that's where it originated, I guess, in my mind. That's where it originated in my mind. So, to see on television a sister who was found cut up in bags in her home, cut up by a man who she called her boyfriend, that really bothered me, in the aspect that it was somebody she considered close, somebody she obviously loved, and somebody who was close to her, to go to that extreme. And then in the same week to see another sister who was set on fire by the father of the children that she was pregnant with at the time. So I said, man, we got to recommit, and we got to put this call out to people and make them know that this should be on your mind. This is something that you should think about. Every morning you get up, you got to make a new commitment. You know that.
Right.
It isn't just a one decision that you make in your life and then it changes, but it's something you have to do every morning. And if we can put that on the minds of men every morning, be committed, be responsible, be respectful, be a man. I think that's the first step in what we're trying to get done when it comes to the protection of our women and our children.
Right. So when we were at this meeting, you gave a letter. You gave a commitment put on paper. Tell us a little bit about that. What inspired that? Why did you feel it was necessary to pretty much present a contract to men in the community to sign?
Well, you've been incarcerated, right?
True.
And as a man who has been incarcerated, you know the value of writing a letter. You know what I mean? You're not just saying it, but you're recording it and you're looking at it, And, so it's a picture in your mind, not just the one way of thinking about it, but so to give the men something written that they had to read and then sign, it puts it in their mind in a different fashion, and I wanted them, to make their word bond. You're signing this, now if you don't have to sign it, but I said, any brother who doesn't sign it, I need to talk to you before you leave the building. That was a very important thing too. But the brothers who did sign it, it seems that they took it very seriously. I saw that you posted it on your Instagram page. I actually had a brother who sent me some pictures of a guy he whooped up later on that night who had been abusive to a family member of his. And I said, well, we don't want to go that far, brother. We want to talk to him first.
Well, it sounds like it's starting to work already.
Yeah, it's starting to work already. But you want to talk to him first, and you want to try to balance the thinking in their mind before we begin turning on each other. It's a very important thing, man. I know a young sister who went to a gas station in Detroit, and she got out to get her gas, and her son was in the back seat, and she was raped between the gas station door and getting back to her car. Got punched in the face, put her by a dumpster, and raped her. And
Wow.
She crawled back into her car with her son, and who didn't know what had happened, and drove home. And this is the type of thing, unfortunately, that our women have to go through. And, I can't just say, well, black women aren't unprotected, because we have groups like New Era Detroit. We have groups like the Detroit 300 who have set up programs where you can go to gas stations for, safety and things like that, where they're out pumping the gas or patrolling it. And you have the Nation of Islam. Different groups have been out patrolling and doing things like that. But we just got to be better, and we have to hold places like that accountable as well. So I've talked to some gas station owners who have agreed to bring back the full service stations, right? To make the at least that area safer. So we can start pressing different things like that to create a more safe environment for our women and children. And I think that you, Lavish, us getting together and putting the pressure down on certain groups, we can make it happen.
Yeah, and definitely speaking to people in these groups out here. As I always say, I can have a podcast on a Wednesday night and I can talk about motorcycles, and I got 100 people that's engaged and involved. Now, if I can get those same people to be engaged and involved when it comes down to doing something for the community, as far as protecting some of these women from being raped, beaten, mistreating, then we can actually get somewhere. Mm-hmm. But it's like, how do we get these individuals engaged when it comes down to teaching, being informative to things? A lot of people, they're informed and they pay attention to the foolishness. Mm-hmm. They're not paying attention to the real focus. Right. So how do we balance that? How do we balance letting these people or become more engaging to these people, so these people can in return engage and learn and say, hey, I'm going to be a part of this community. I'm going to fight back. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be a part of this community, and I'm going to protect and watch over. See, me personally, I'm in a tow truck all day. Mm-hmm. I sit in the gas station, I sit at the lights, and I'm watching people. for no apparent reason, just because I just want to make sure they're safe. I got a handicapped mother, so I know what it's like for her to be out here vulnerable. So when I do see women, I kind of keep my eye on them a little tougher than I would if I see that individual with a male, and we need more people out there. And I'm saying it's not that we always have to go approach women because their guards are always up, but we still should be able to have men that's going to look over them from a distance. In the event something do happen, they're already there.
Last summer, I had an incident where I was driving up Gratiot. I was in East Point, and it was a young man out there, and he seemed to be restricting this woman from. She was trying to like walk away, and he was standing in front of her and pushing on her, and like he was kind of like kind of manhandling her in a way. So I pulled over, and when I pulled over, and as soon as I got out the car, she immediately started protecting him. Immediately, she went into protective mode for him. She's trying to tell him to get away from me. So I told her, I said, sister, if you trying to leave, leave. He's not going to stop you from leaving right now. If you're trying to go a certain way, you can go that way now. So she still was in protective mode. He seemed to kind of his ego, now he got a problem with me.
Right.
So I got in his face. And the problem went away, but I didn't feel comfortable with. I didn't even want to be a bully to the bully.
Right.
So what I did was I started talking to him. I used it as an opportunity to teach him and teach her. I said, "There's no reason she should be looking to me for protection. I'm a stranger. If y'all together, she should be looking to you for protection and looking at me sideways." Right. She shouldn't feel safer or be safe because I'm right here. And I ended up talking to him. I ended up praying with them. I've never done anything like that before in my life, but I really didn't want her to suffer because I intervened.
Right.
And so I wanted to kind of leave it on a very positive and hopefully connect with them on a spiritual level. So I ended up praying with both of them and gave them some advice in front of her, and they both were smiling and laughing, and I hope that had some type of effect on him and her. It's unsure. In hindsight, I should have got both of their contact information, especially his, and followed up and maybe even tried to mentor, but I didn't do that because it was, I was kind of heated. I was ready to, to really teach them. So this is something I really want to point out. How the woman not being protected and the different things we're seeing, the ills that affect the woman because she's not being protected. How does that affect the children?
Well, I mean, it's all connected, right? We were talking about rape, murder, and I was talking to the police chief at the time, and I said, well, no, the mayor, actually. The mayor wanted some program that could stop violence overnight. And I said, we don't have programs like that. He just wanted something that he could say, okay, we did it. But that's not a reality. And I told him, I said, you could get 1,000 more police, but murder originates in the mind. Rape originates in the mind. This abuse that we see is coming from children that have grown up. Osama bin Laden was a baby at a time. You know what I mean? Hitler was a baby at a time. Jeffrey Dahmer was a baby, and some of the people that who've committed murders were babies that their mothers loved. What happened in between that and the crime that they committed? What happened in between that and the abuse? All of these things have to be looked at. And I'm not going to blame stuff on just mental health, but it's a real thing, and people are really affected by it. Henry Ford High School, for instance, I just got a call from there. Fights every day after school. And most of the fights are among young women fighting each other. You know what I mean? They grow up and become something else. Low self-esteem plays a big issue. These are things that happen. Breakups of family contribute to that, right? So I got 3 daughters, a wife and 3 daughters. So my whole thing is about protecting them. They're not abused. They're not violated. A young man does something to them and they tell me, it gets handled. If it's not by me, I got nephews and things like that. We got to get back to that, definitely. We got to tighten up the family unit, definitely. Just like you said, it can't be a one-time intervention because, I mean, right now, 3 houses down from you, some child might be getting molested. You know, the house behind you, some child might be getting molested. Some woman might be getting beat. You know what I mean? So it's a problem, and it's there. But until we're able to even put it in the school system, you know what I mean, where it's part of the educational process that they're getting daily, you know, like who you are. You know, that's one teaching in the Nation of Islam. Who are you? The love of self, the knowledge of self. Because once a person knows who they are and begins to love themselves, they don't allow certain things, you know. And even as a man, if I see myself as great, if I see myself as one created in the image and likeness of God, then I'm supposed to see it in my brother. I'm supposed to see it in my sister. If I love myself, if I love my mother, how can I hit a woman who looks like my mother, who looks like my sister? How can I abuse her? You know what I mean? So it's a lot of things going on in our minds, man. It's like if I'm standing over you, you see these fights on the internet, and you see people beating one another, and they don't stop. What is it in that person? You know what I mean? Once you've gotten the best of a person, for you to keep on going. Or how can you pull a trigger on somebody who looks like you, knowing how delicate you are? The minister once said, we're so arrogant as human beings that we'll kill a mosquito as though we could make another one. You know what I mean? And that's just looking at the delicacy of a mosquito. Think about looking at your brother or your sister in the proper way. You know what I mean? Lavish. You know what I mean? It's not just the name. But when you look at the makeup of the man, you know, he's a delicate, precious human being, man. Why would I want to hurt that? Right. You know, when I look at a woman and what she can do, how she produces, the care, the concern, the nurturing that comes out of women, how could I hurt that?
Right.
So it's a sickness going on in our community, and we have to be doctors daily.
It's really pervasive. I don't know a single woman that even in the workplace she's not sexually harassed or discriminated against because she's a woman. It's like it's really a war against women in this American society.
Well, in the world.
In the world, yeah, it's a global thing. It's a war against women. Women are treated a certain way, and it allows men not to protect them a certain way. Like I said, in the workplace, women are discriminated against. They're held back. They're not allowed to advance like a male would, and they really not allowed to advance if you're a black woman like a white male can. You know, I personally know women that have dealt with every aspect of that. Do you believe that thinking is also connected to the violence against women?
It's part of it, you know, because, you know, like in our community, however, most leadership positions have been given to women, you know, and then men come in and have to work under those women. I've seen so many situations like that. And then the man, he doesn't want to submit to the woman, you know what I mean? And it's because of those types of issues, you know? So I think it's very common, and it's not just here in Detroit or here in America. It's worldwide, the oppression of women. But now we're talking about black men and black women, and you got to look at an oppressed man too. You know what I mean? A man who, whenever he walks in the room, he's looked at in a certain way. You know what I mean? And the woman not so much, because they don't see her as threatening as the man. You know, so sometimes she's elevated in those situations over a male. You know, and then he comes back and he takes that out on her sometimes. You know what I mean? You remember you might be younger than me, but it was an episode of Good Times when James was going on an interview and he took his wife with him, Florida. And they ended up hiring her for the job because she fit the female and black categories. You know what I'm saying? So this went on for years. So now you look at most of the leadership positions, black women, you know, most of those taking the forefront, even in the movement, black women, you know. And that's because of how nurturing she is, how protective she is of us, you know. And then us not knowing how to handle that, we strike out because we've struck out so many times. You know, I met a man from prison. We had went out, And when the waitress got to our table, she said, "I'll serve you guys, but I'm not serving that creep." You know what I mean? That's not language you hear amongst black people, you know, a creep. She called him a creep because I guess he had been saying some stuff to her. And what I found out is this guy served time in prison. His mother and his sisters, he felt they abandoned him. He was molested while he was in juvenile, then he went to prison and got into some type of sexual stuff. And he got out with a hatred for women. So his whole existence in prison was to lift weights, look good, so nobody would ever deny him again. Then he would get out and he would link up with these sisters and ruin their lives. Then he'll get them pregnant, tear up their stuff, take their cars and, you know, and move to the next one. Until we got a wind of it, then we stopped it, you know. He ended up back in prison. But it showed me a mindset that's out there, man.
All right. Now, one of the things that I faced when I put the story out there about when I intervened in East Point with the young brother and the young sister, immediately on social media, people was telling me that I shouldn't have got involved. Like immediately, like, you're too important. You shouldn't have got involved. You shouldn't have did that. You got to protect yourself. Watch out for. I got so many messages in my comments as well as in my inbox where people was like serious, like, bro, you can't be doing stuff like that.
The only reason you are important is because you got involved. That's what gave you your importance, your desire to be involved. You know what I mean? You could have came out of the situation you were in and just went on and disappeared in life, but you got involved. That's what makes you important. That's why Lavish is known, because he gets involved. That's why he's important. But the person that just stands on the sideline doing nothing but talk, man, they have no importance.
Right. And that was my response was, you know, I was made to sacrifice for moments like this. You know, you can't hang on to your life and for as long as you think you can live, when the moment for you to die might be the moment to save somebody else's life. You know,
let me ask you this. I want to ask y'all this, because growing up, and it goes back to what you just said, it was taught and told to me, if you see somebody in a domestic dispute, don't get involved. Don't intervene. What is the balance today? And what I mean by that is, hey, you want to get involved because you don't want to see anything bad to happen. You don't want to see anything bad happen to this lady. Then you don't want to see anything bad happen to either one of them, because he can make the wrong decision and it caused him some legal problems. But then you playing the hero, trying to protect, can cost you your life. It can cost you time in prison. I done seen women, like personally that I know, a stranger intervene, and the man and the woman turned on the guy that was trying to help. How do you work that balance?
Well, I mean, I guess you got to consider that might be my mother. You know what I mean? Do I want somebody to intervene then? You know, that might be my sister. Would I want somebody to intervene if I wasn't there? If Lavish wasn't there and somebody was, you know, harassing Lavish's mom, what would Lavish want done, right? You know what I mean? We have to be able to balance it out, of course. You know, I've had situations being a minister of a mosque where couples come and those incidents are real. And you want to talk it out first. You want to explain to the brother, listen, man, you know, this is where you could end up. We're not even talking about you getting lumps on your head, but, you know, just the whole legal process is a serious process, man. You got to think before you do, you know, and then you got to tell the sister, you know, how much do you respect yourself? And this, you could end up in a cemetery if you keep with this guy, you know, with this type of attitude. But you got to, you know, you balance it out. I have, like I said, I have daughters. I would want Marvin to jump out if he saw one of my daughters into an incident like that, at least to make sure that it was clear that, you know, this got to stop right now. You know what I mean?
And it's so screwed up, because inside certain women's mind, they would never go anywhere. They would never leave that guy. Like I say, I've seen women who were getting abused and a stranger tried to protect them, and like I say, the woman that was being abused and the man that was abusing her turned on the helper.
Right. Now, approach is important too. You know, there's no one approach to any situation that fits every situation. You got to use intelligence. The way you intervene has to be intelligent. You may have to intervene with overwhelming force and power, for a lack of better words, or you may intervene with, "Hey, bro, what's going on? Like, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay, ma'am? Is y'all good?" You know, sometimes just that to bring people back to reality, so you can hopefully impart something that can help them with their lives. You know, but we have to be able to measure the situation.
Yep, you got to be wise in every situation. Definitely, and you gotta weigh it. You know, when we do security, you have strong security where you got a lot of big brothers who they're there to just discourage anybody from coming forward. But then you got soft security where you know, at a executive type event, you know what I mean, and everybody playing their role, you have to look at the situation, analyze the best that you can. But the bottom line, I believe, is we have to change the mindset. And that starts with our young people, man. We have to put it in their mind what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. We have to put it in their mind their own self-value and self-love. Because if you love yourself, man, you can't hurt nobody who looks like you. If you love yourself, you don't tolerate people hurting you or harming you in these areas. So it's about a change of a mind, man. And it's a mind that we've picked up from everywhere. We pick it up from our music, from television shows, from what we saw other people do. You know what I mean? And that stuff just got to be erased. And we got to try to get a clean page so we can rewrite the history that we're walking into right now.
How do we help the men that they don't even know how to be men to even protect the black woman? It's a lot of them out there like that.
True.
They don't know how to protect the black women, let alone protect themselves. So if they can't protect themselves, how can we even trust them to protect our sisters and our mothers?
Well, our example is always the best teacher. You know, the youngsters always looking at the older men. They emulate us as children until they don't see anything to emulate anymore, and then and then they start emulating the streets, and they start emulating what they hear in songs. I was talking to a young guy. He probably was like 13, 14 years old, and I asked him, I said, "You got a girlfriend?" His response was, "I don't trust no B." Now, where did he get that from? He hasn't even been on this planet long enough to even have an opinion. You know what I'm saying? He hasn't even been on the planet long enough, but he's getting it from the music. He's getting it from the examples he see in the community. Like, what you mean? So of course I dived into that conversation with him, but I did it in a very strategic way. I didn't want to turn him off. I didn't want to break the link that I have with him so that he won't listen to nothing I say. But I started asking him questions, and I took it to his mother. How you feel about your moms? You know what I'm saying? Like, she at one point she was 13, 14, 15 years old, and I tried to make that connection. I tried to get him to come to certain or an evolved conclusion, opposed to me telling him what to think or telling him how to feel. But like you said, it's been a cultural shift.
Cultural shift, definitely.
And the problem is a cultural solution. You got to address it holistically.
The whole thing, right.
Hence, this is the bigger yard. We got to look at things from a holistic standpoint.
And that's unfortunate, you know, in the aspect, you know, like when I came up, I was raised by my grandparents. But my grandfather got up, went to work 6 days a week. That was the example.
Right.
So I'm a man who goes to work 6 days a week. You know what I mean? I'm a minister of Mars, but I still got an 8-hour-a-day job, 2 or 3 of them, right? So, you know what I mean? But that was the example I saw. I never saw him hit my mom. I saw him pay all the bills. So I'm living the life that I saw my dad live, right? And they're missing that, like you pointed out. You know, they're missing that figure right there.
Yeah, so, they don't have that at all.
So they got to be exposed to guys like you, you know what I mean? So we have to find ways to go to the schools. We have to find ways to make extra time for our nephews and nieces and things like that, man. It's just who much is given, much is required.
Now, naturally, all three of us, our conversation went, instead of focusing on the man, we all went to the youth. Mm-hmm. Now, we know raising a better man from being a child produces a better man that will act better in society. but we still got all these grown men that's out here really doing all of the dirt or not protecting the women right now. We can't just wait for the youth to grow up and take the place of the men that's here. We won't have a future. So how do we address and check that problem?
Well, I think the addressing and checking of that problem is what we're doing now, the conversation. Or you end up in a wild, wild west situation. You know what I mean? Where like, you know, you just take them off the chessboard. You know what I mean? It's either that serious or it's not. You know what I mean? When you look at the development and the growth of a nation, it is that serious. When you're looking at the possible extinction of a nation, it is that serious. Where when you see this type of behavior, you have to take it off the map. But in some cases, just like your own, he's not guilty, right? So then I make a mistake. And I can't afford to make those mistakes either.
Not at all.
So it's a bigger conversation, man. It's a bigger, you have to get the brothers who listen to you. You got to get your family members. I have to get mine. I have to discourage that type of energy at all amongst those who I influence. So when I called that meeting, brothers came out who I influenced. The room was packed from the front to the back with brothers who know me. And I was able to talk directly to them. But each of us have groups.
Yeah, we got groups, and together we can come together and be a stronger group.
Yeah, but
more powerful.
Until then, you play the role of prophet to your group. You know what I mean? Moses ain't just limited to 2,000 years ago. You know what I mean? That's the role that you play now. The Jesus of 2,000 years ago, that's the role you play now. Not in no crazy spiritual way, but I'm saying you become the teacher. When you learn better, then it's your obligation to go back and teach better. You know what I mean? If you got friends who do that, man, you discourage it. Period. Right. In the roughest way possible with the people you know. Right? The people that you can take in the room and shake up and
you
say
can
this.
you can talk to.
Right.
You can listen and they respect you enough, because there's a lot of people nowadays, for me, I'm able to talk to them in such a way and they like, you know what, you right. But those are the people that don't have a problem you opening themselves up, especially the people that actually seen where I was at 15, 20 years ago. And they look and they say, well, if he can be over here and he's over here now,
right,
I'm definitely, going to listen to him. I feel better listening to him because he might understand. And it comes a time where you can't just always, let a person hear what they want to hear. Sometimes you gotta tell them, the real. You gotta be cutthroat and let them know, hey,
that's
man,
how my circle is. My
so and so.
We check each other. My circle, if one of us wrong or we don't agree, we say it flat out. Like, you was wrong for saying that.
Right.
We ain't gonna sugarcoat nothing. The people that I've grown up with, the people I've built relationships with, brothers that I've met in prison and maintained those relationships, we tell each other right off, like, you wrong. You shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have did that.
Right.
You need to apologize for that. Mm-hmm. That's what I think. Mm-hmm. I think you wrong. And I think stuff like that, or having that in relationships is important. Being able to hold each other responsible, to be able to check the men. It's not an ego thing. If you're wrong, I want you to be better.
And then, amongst this age group that we're talking, it's not a badge of honor. You know what I mean? I don't know no guys who come around me like, yeah, man, I smacked that. You know what I mean? Because they know we're going to discourage it. You know what I mean? So cats hide that type of stuff. And then the women are so embarrassed that they hide it from the people they know. So sometimes it could be a whole marriage that you think everything's going good, man. Right. You don't even know what's going on right there.
I say that all the time. I say that, you can go online and you can see a happy relationship, beautiful, online. And then you have your friends that'll say, look at them online. They're so beautiful. Look at them. It's a beautiful couple. And it's a facade, because behind closed doors, it's violence, it's abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse. It's so much abuse that the only way to help cover it up is to make the internet appear to be so beautiful. I've seen that in different situations. I tow cars. So my job puts me in a lot of these places with people, and I'm looking like, oh, man, I thought that they were like this. But when I went over there, It was
Right.
nothing like I thought they
Right,
were.
all 4 tires cut.
Yeah, and it's, it happens in real life, where things do look like they're beautiful and everything is on the up and up, man. And there's all types of problems within the household.
And and that goes along with the society now. 90% of that internet stuff, you know what I mean? I've got a stack of money right here, you know what I mean? But all my bills behind, you know what I mean? Everything is like a mask, right? So people are putting on these masks daily, man. So you don't really get what you need in order to give the proper remedies to it, right? So it's a difficult situation that we're speaking into. It's a difficult challenge for us to change the tide of that group that you're talking about that's doing it right now.
We playing doctor via Zoom, where we trying to diagnose symptoms from the internet,
Yeah.
and there's no way we can really take a real look at our communities because we know everything that goes on social media, most of it anyway, is inflated and garbage.
Yeah.
But one thing that is on social media that I think we can get a real pulse for is everything is over-sexualized. That affects relationships. That affects the way that men interact with women. That has an effect on the bond between man and woman and how a man either appreciate or depreciates a woman.
I think it's the person. I think it's the person. I don't want to blame it on the internet, because if you dedicated to that woman, you dedicated to that woman. You have the ultimate choice on what you're gonna do, versus saying I'm blaming it on social media. And I know we use social media nowadays as an outlet to point the finger. But if you're gonna cheat, you're gonna cheat. If you're gonna do something, you're gonna do something, not just because it was on social media, because it was already in your mind.
No, I'm not talking about it from that aspect. I'm talking about it from the image standpoint.
Of what's beautiful?
For example, how can a woman or anybody, even a man, put certain things out on social media and then expect for someone to commit to them wholeheartedly?
Okay, I got you on that. And it's still kind of fickle. It's still kind of fickle. For me, that's what I say, because you got some women out here, they're models. I might not like what you do, but I know you. I know you. You're doing this. You're taking your pictures. I don't like to have my homeboys looking at you, but I'm not going to say that makes you a bad person, because I'm secure enough in my relationship with you. It might not be the same thought pattern for you, an outsider. So, I mean, I guess it's checks and balances on that.
Well, that like you're saying, that's the as doctors, right? That's how you gotta analyze each person, because it's not a across the board type thing. Some guys need to just be slapped, man. Bottom line, just slap the hell out of them. Some guys need to be talked to. Some guys you can talk spiritually to. Some guys you could talk common sense to. But then there's that other group that just need to be slapped and stomped out, because it's just no excuse. When you have the physical power and prowess over a woman and you take advantage like that. Right. You know what I mean? That's the same mind of a pedophile. You know what I mean? Taking advantage of somebody that's weaker than you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like Lavish said, it's still an individual mindset that we have to deal with. And I guess that's why I reverted back to the youth, because that mind is still very impressionable.
Right,
but with those who are our age or older or a little younger, I mean, that's a group that we have to pull. You know what I mean? And each person has to pull. Like, I can't go to the motorcycle clubs and, they might not respect me the same way they respect Lavish. You know what I mean? He has an insight there.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we have to find our groups. And it's maybe 30, 40 guys in this city alone, in this area alone, who has influence like that over certain groups. So we just got to get with those guys and start the process here,
and make sure everybody's speaking into the culture.
Right.
Speaking into the
we
culture.
We are the leaders. When you, like you said earlier in the program, we have a voice. It's our job to keep talking. I talk about a lot of stuff that people don't even want to listen to. But I keep saying it. I keep saying it to the point where they already know what I'm about to say. Before I even say it, they know what I'm about to say. You know, what I don't believe in, what I don't agree with, what I think is not cool. And they don't always have to agree with me, but they know how I feel about something. And if I keep speaking on it, then maybe they might get the concept to say, you know what, I thought about it. I don't want to admit it, but you were right. That has happened. You know, we'll just teach it and showing people stuff. Because I grew up watching other people. And they were giving me this image of what it was to be cool, what it was like to be a bad guy, what I needed to do to fit in. And I'm doing all this stuff, right? Because I'm thinking they're teaching me, and this is the right thing to do. And I'm doing it all. And I found out down the road, man, I was the baddest guy out there. Wow. Not saying bad because I'm just a bad guy, but it was bad because they were
teaching you to do stuff that they wouldn't.
They wouldn't. They never did. Right. So I'm the one, the fall guy. Mm-hmm. When everything happened, I'm the one like, yeah. So what happened when you did that, man? Because this just happened to me. What I supposed to do? What I got to tell the police? And they like, I don't know. And I'm like, what? They tell you these stories. Mm-hmm. And when we're younger, we're looking up to these people. If you see that cool guy in the neighborhood driving that fancy car, you looking up to a person and you like, oh, man, I want to be like him. I want to be like him. But he's not telling you go to school. He's not telling you focus on this. So you living up to something that's a false facade. They're not taking the chances that they're telling you to take. That happened to me from personal experience.
But now how do you take that to those who look up to you now?
So
you know what I mean? Because now you're actually the real guy that went through it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So how do you pass that on?
I keep it 100% real and thorough with them. Mm-hmm. And I let them know I was that guy that was listening to these people that was teaching me wrong. Don't do that. I done made these mistakes. See, I go back in time. The people that actually taught me, and some people look at me and they say, what? I grew up in the 80s when the crack era came. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people that was from that era, when they fell off, they were the ones in the alley, the drunks, the winos, the substance abuse users. I learned from them. They were the ones that taught me the proper way because they were the ones that was like, look at me. You don't want to end up like this. Go to school. See, the other guys was telling me, man, you don't need school, man. You already smart enough. What we got to graduate for? And I'm sitting there balancing this. This is like a balancing act, but I'm not dumb.
And how old were you?
Man, this was all through high school. Going from the transition is when you start feeling yourself. It starts in middle school. For me, it's like the transition. Then, I'm getting in trouble on the west side. They send me over to school on the east side. So now I'm in a whole nother ball game because what they doing on the west side, they ain't doing on the east side. So it's like, man, on the east side, man, I got people in middle school driving to school in cars.
So now how do we stop that rites of passage, right? Because this is what teenagers are going through, right? To get to the point of abuse or just not knowing, how to deal with
valuing themselves
women,
and valuing the women.
All of that, right? So the same route, right? I done whooped guys up all in my teen years and shot guys, and I went to prison for shooting a police officer. But out of 50 years, can't no woman get on this line and say that I ever hit him. Because I never saw my dad hit my mom. You know what I'm saying? Never hit a woman in my life. So it's these rites of passages, the stuff that we go through. You know what I mean? Self-esteem issues that make us go through them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was shooting guys and I felt, hey, man, I got to go up another notch. Got to shoot a cop. You know what I mean?
Oh,
that
man.
sent me to prison, 25 to 50.
But you learn from when you sit down and you actually think about everything. You go back in life and you say, man, was it really worth it?
But you don't want to wait till you get in that box.
Right. You don't want to wait.
Our kids don't have to go through it.
Absolutely.
To avoid, we have to figure out what's the rites of passage where they can avoid it.
Because although I was in prison for something I didn't do, prison taught me to appreciate everything. I got out of prison and everything I do is like I'm on a new planet. Like I'm living a whole new life because I love everything just that much.
How do you give your experience, brother, to somebody else so that they don't have to experience but get the same benefits that you have? See, that's your value right now. You have the ability. You went through something that the majority of the world will never go through. And you came out of that experience with some sanity, and some balance.
Depending on who you ask.
Well, you can.
Don't ask my girlfriend.
Well, you got enough balance to pass on what you gained so that other people don't even have to go that route. How do you do that?
Right.
Because I think that's part of the balancing act. That's part of, when you say you learn to value everything, that gives a man in a situation like that a different thought, to value everything and to wake up in the morning valuing everything and then begin to treat the woman right, better, treating his family better, being better.
How do you protect the woman that does not want your protection? The woman that's been scarred. How do you protect them?
Well, that's actually where it all starts. And I'm sure
because we can't go back because they're already scarred. Their guard is up. They don't want your help. They think that you're going to hurt them even more than they are already hurt.
Well, physical protection is just one aspect, but protecting a woman emotionally and mentally is where it all starts. Because when you start appreciating a woman mentally and emotionally, it automatically makes you want to protect everything about her. Period. So your approach is everything. Women are used to men approaching them wanting something. How many women actually deal with a man who actually comes, if it's not a close family member, that don't want anything from him? I just want to see you win. I want to see you successful. So that's really the mentality that men have to have in the community. I don't want anything from you. So I just want you to win because I know when you win, the rest of the community win. So that's a part of my responsibility. So when we come with that attitude, I believe some of that guard comes down, but not all of it should ever come down. Some of that guard is necessary, not the guard that's built through pain and struggle and the scars. But women should have a natural guard up because any man shouldn't be able to just approach them about anything.
Absolutely. But that goes to mindset. That goes what's put into your mind as you're coming up. What are you taught? How do you view yourself? How do you value yourself? Are you being given these tools? Were you brought up in a single parent home where mom was trying to balance so much that she wasn't able to give you those added tools?
Yeah, and that makes a difference.
All of these things are there, and these are things that we can work on. But it has to be a serious look, man. You got to go to a church and tell, we have to make the pastors more responsible. They're trying to do the best they can do, but you have to make them more responsible and make it a larger effort where you're dealing with the home front. Our community organizations are trying to do it the best that they can without the financing that they need. So all of us, I think that's one of the benefits of the mosque, the Nation of Islam, in the sense that it's more of a family-oriented piece, where the family is dealt with and we kind of take care of one another. We deal with problems in-house, so it becomes if the problem happens with Lavish, it becomes a family issue for the whole mosque, and everybody's involved. So I think we have to expand our churches out like that more. We have to, our community organizations like that more. We have to get in these schools. You're needed in the school. Lavish is needed in the school.
Yeah, and I like the school. I like the school. I mean, my cousin, she got me into the school thing as far as going out there talking to the kids. It's career day. But then also, business starting. I did stuff talking to the children for the police department. They see camp program.
Now, do you pull up in the tow truck or the Maybach? The Maybach or the tow truck, you know what I mean?
Well, we definitely pulling up in the tow truck, man. We definitely in the tow truck, man. And I let them see a living example of what I'm doing. Because outside of me being in a tow truck, people had this misconception that I'm doing more than what I'm doing. But it comes with hard work. And I showed them, you working hard, you can achieve and get these same things. You don't have to go out here and do illegal activities to, make a living. And right now in this era that we living in, man, there's so many different ways to make a legit living. I mean, just technology alone. So I try to instill that stuff in the children that I do talk to and let them know it's all types of ways, and it's easy to come and talk to somebody. See, when I was growing up, it wasn't really that easy to talk to anybody.
Right.
We talking about, I'm a teenager in the 90s. You remember what the 90s was like, man? It was kind of rough back there. It's crazy now, but it was rough back there. We couldn't even look at you. I mean, it wasn't no walking past you, looking at you. It was pretty much walking past you, seeing who could look at each other the toughest and seeing which one is going to budge first. Whereas now it's nothing, but then it comes with maturity and growth, because I can walk past the meanest looking grim out there and still say, what's going on, man? You all right? And he has nothing to do besides reply or just keep walking. But my energy level is down. But as we talking about protecting the black women, I want to go on to ask what's going on with these with the human trafficking and also the kidnapping of women. See, right now we live in the era where we don't have to just worry about car thieves and shoplifters. We got to worry about people stealing humans.
Right.
Who would think that we'll grow and we'll come to an age where we have to actually worry about humans being stolen,
right,
kidnapped, snatched up.
And in Detroit, that's a real problem.
It's a real problem, and it's everywhere. But seeing that we got the bridge right there, we hear stuff about the international thing because it has made the news. What can we do to protect the women from that? And a lot of these women, I can't say it's just because they're at the gas station. I can't say because, they're walking home from school. People are coming into people's homes, catching them in front of their houses, kidnapping.
Well, I just attended a meeting with the FBI on this trafficking, this human trafficking. And Michigan is the number 2 place in the country for this type of trafficking. And what they found and what they mentioned to us is that, unlike the male against the female, it's mostly females that are opening the door for this. So they recruit females to get other females. And it's happening a lot in the schools, according to this, the FBI report that we were given by the FBI. They said that they get a lot of young women to recruit other young women to bring into these schemes, and they just swoop them up and take them, man.
Is there any signs? Is there anything that we as a community can pay attention to or see?
Well, he was saying the briefing that he gave us was, of course, checking on our children, making sure we know who they communicate with, these types of things. Just being more informed with your children, and in the schools being more informed with the students, which is hard to do, but these are some of the things that they talked about doing, and the parties that they invite them to. They identified a few big parties that were thrown in the area where so many were invited to it, and so many came up missing from these parties because they were planned parties for this type of activity.
Wow. My publicist, Brandy Mitchell, she does something with mom groups.
Okay.
Where everybody, all her daughter's friends, all of the mothers are connected. They don't go anywhere unless all the mothers have talked, and it ain't no, back in the day, the girl would tell her mother, I'm gonna be over this person's house, and then the other girl tell the mother that, when you have mom groups like that or parent groups, that cuts off a whole lot of stuff. You're not hanging with somebody that we don't know them. You're not going, and anybody that's in that house, the mother that's sending, or the mother and father that's sending a child to somebody else's house, not only should they meet the parents, they should know everybody that's in that house.
So this is what we got to create more of. You know what I mean? It's things that we're doing positively that is, that's working.
Right.
But we're not expanding it enough.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we have to expand these things. We have the power, we have the strength to demand certain things in the school system, in our community, where we can forge it
and normalize it.
Normalize
it.
Yeah. That's what men do. You know what I mean? If we're not doing that, we're not fulfilling our role, because we do have a role to play. It is a role that we have. You know, according to what I believe, the man is created in the image and likeness of God. You know what I mean? And you have to play that role, man. So when the Lord's Prayer says, "Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name," your name is supposed to be hallowed, but you have to carry yourself in the godly fashion for it to be like that. Give us this day our daily bread. We're supposed to be providers. We're supposed to be maintainers, so that she as a woman can be free to do the things that she wants to do, man. To be creative, to make the world a more beautiful place. Right. But if we're not clearing the area and making the area safe, you know, then she can't play her role. So now you got a community where everybody playing all different roles. You got men looking like women.
Yeah.
Getting hips put on and, you know what I mean, weave. You got women looking like E40. You know what I mean? All of this crazy stuff going on, man, and you don't even know what you're looking at. And sometimes it's because it's not, you know, I was born this way, but most of it is because of pain, man. So you got a woman trying to transform herself into the man who she feels let her down. You got men scared to be men, so they cower back and become women. So you got role reversal taking place. So how do you speak into that? You know what I mean? We got a lot of closet cleaning to do. But it begins with men like this on this panel and women like your publicists, right? Putting the things together that work, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Putting that puzzle together so that eventually we can see a clear picture on the board.
So one of the things that we've always kind of suffered from in the black community is our issues are not maintained in the media. Sometimes they don't. Our black youth come up missing. These young black females are coming up missing. But Zion Foster came up missing a little over a month ago. Her story haven't been in the news for over 3 weeks now. You know, and although this is one case, it's a very important case. You know, this is a case where it's possible that somebody that she was related to may have had a hand in her coming up missing. So how do we address the media, or do we create our own way to keep
that's what you're doing now. That's what Lavish is doing now. That's what your podcast is about, creating our own media. And as he mentioned earlier, because of the, internet can be blessing or a curse, but you can use it as a blessing by creating your own media. You know, we've always taught do for self.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm looking at this NFL stuff. We complaining about the NFL. Do for self, man. You know what I mean? You could put some guys on the football field, start playing and start pumping it up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Put a fee on it, get the dancers out there, whatever you got to do, pump it up. But, you know, we got to create our own. Yeah. And we have to be, we have to have enough, my brother here, he represents Church of the Messiah. It's over there across from Belle Isle. And they've bought up that entire neighborhood. I'm talking about at least 3 streets. How many properties? We have over 200 and some properties on 3 streets.
Wow.
So anybody who walks in that area, they know the people who ain't supposed to be there, right? Because they've done for self, and they've created an environment that they're sort of in control of. We have to start doing that, man. Creating environments that we control, and then we can create the narrative around it. You know what I mean? These news stations, 2, 4, and 7, man, they don't mean nothing good for us. I was on a show. They had me on the edge. And I was on with a Republican brother. And they were, I told a Republican brother before the show started, I said, listen, man, you don't even want to get into it with me because you're going to lose. Right? So we agreed, and we talked, and every point we would come to agreement on. Then at the commercial, Charlie get on there and he asked us, he said, gotta be something you guys disagree on. Come on, you know. But we didn't, because we're brothers, right? And I think we have to create this amongst one another, man. We got to create our own environments. These news stations ain't got nothing for us.
Right.
We saw the police officer beat the sister in the hospital a couple years ago.
He got promoted.
She was naked. He gets promoted. You know what I mean? I got with some of our community groups. We're gonna have a little press conference and condemn it. By the time 4 o'clock came, all of them had backed out. And the news had backed out because Chief Craig called him and told him it was cool. So I went on Facebook and said some stuff. And then Chief Craig contacts Minister Farrakhan, told him I got him death threats and stuff like that. So the minister calls me and chastised me. But when I showed the minister what he did, the minister said, you were right. Because Chief Craig came on and the first thing he did was try to make an excuse for this. And that's more of this abuse against black women. That was totally unacceptable. It should have been
lack of value, lack of appreciation,
right.
Lack of protection.
Totally should have been unacceptable. I don't care what condition she was in. But to see that on television, videotaped, a black woman with no clothes on being beaten by a police officer.
Right.
That should have been an uproar. But these weak, sorry community leaders, most of them, I ain't going to say their names on here. But most of the names you see, the same Negroes, man. They on leashes. And they live for that cut on Channel 4 or sound bite somewhere. Because they're not in it for the real. We're in it for the real. And in being in it for the real, we just got to go all the way hard in the paint. We could change it. I think the Million Man March, what we started talking about, was an example of it, where you have 1 million black men in one place. 24 hours, no fighting.
Bringing peace,
no
unity.
Peace, no arguing, no fights were reported. 24 hours, 1 million men. It's only 700,000 people in Detroit.
Right.
So if he could show us how to do it, if we could do it for one day for 24 hours, then we could do it for 2 days. We could do it for a week, a month. But it takes the right people to get together to, tap into that. It's there, man. Nobody want to fight, man.
I think everybody's just a matter of everybody just playing a part.
Yeah.
Everybody, playing a different part, and together is just a big part that's being played. Like right now, I'm playing my part by having this podcast, having this discussion. Now we need to take this podcast, we need to take the discussion, and we need to open up more resources like the one that Brandy has going on with the women and the mothers. Get more people engaged so they can come up with their own group, their own family plan. Just
Absolutely.
Where so many of us do so much stuff.
The podcast becomes the Underground Railroad.
That's it right there. That's
saying?
it. We are our own media.
Yeah.
If they won't put it out there, I don't have to worry about the FCC. I can say what I want to say. I can mention what I want to mention, and things that, they don't want to mention for ratings. We have outlets. I mean, one of the biggest things we have our phone. We can get out here. We can share the message. We can talk about it. We can put it out ourselves. Just like you said, they didn't want to put certain information out. But now it's so many different media outlets. Some people, they just don't want the backlash. Some people, they be a little leery. But at what point are you just going to say, I'm going to do what's right?
Right.
Forget what they say or how they feel. I just got to do what's right.
And then once we tighten that up like he's saying, then as a strong group, man, we could burn the rest of that stuff down. Man.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm talking about kicking doors and burn it down. You know what I mean? Because it's no good to us. It's enemy to us. The media in Detroit is enemy to us. The radio stations in Detroit with these buffoons and coons hosting these shows, enemies to us, man. I hear about our young artists got to pay these clowns to get their records played on the radio, man. All of this type of stuff, man. It's enemy to our community. And we have to shut this mess down, man. But we have to get strong before we can do it. So we all on one page. We all on one accord. This word is bond.
Right.
You ain't got to worry about me turning on you. I ain't turning on, Lavish. We together in it.
Right.
If it's just us, it's 3 the hard way.
But you got so many. You got so much. You got so many different people in their minds and their pride. And then it goes back to the crab and the barrel mentality. If Marvin is doing a little bit too much, then I'm sitting around here like, hold on, man, he doing more than me. Instead of me working with him, I'm competing with him. Mm-hmm. And you get so much of that going on out here that when Marvin comes around, he like, hey, Lavish, what's up? And I'm like, yeah, whatever, man. And he like, what's wrong?
The hate is definitely real. The hate is
Correct.
definitely real out here.
And it happens. It happens a lot. You can't grow. Everybody's, we say, man, I want to see you shine. I want to see you get there. But I don't want to see you get there before I get there.
Or get there better than I get there.
Correct. And that happens every day throughout the community from people that we know. I get more love and respect from people that I barely know, man, than people that I know.
Right.
That's just the truth of it.
And all of this is symptoms from what we're talking about. A woman can't be as creative as she. A woman is a natural teacher. She has a natural connection to children. And if she can't be creative because she's worried about not being protected in her community,
right,
how can she give her best self to a child that naturally looks to her? All of us, how we feel about our mothers.
Yeah.
No matter the relationship we've had with our mothers, when it comes to mom, that's moms. But if moms can't be the very best her because she's not protected by the men in the community, how can she possibly pour her best self into the children? And if the man doesn't even have enough to protect the woman, what could he possibly pour into the children if he's not even being what he's supposed to do to protect the woman? So here you go. We have children that's raised in the community that's not getting enough woman and not getting enough man. Mm-hmm. And they turn out worse than the men that drop the ball trying to pass it to them.
But that's because the human being, the woman and the man, haven't gotten enough God.
True.
You know what I mean? They don't see enough of the beauty in themselves. They don't see enough that they were created in his image and likeness. They're not seeing the specialness that's in them. You know what I mean? So it's like, and then, you put all these crazy people, aberrated individuals in a circle. You know what I mean? You got people who don't respect and understand self getting with other people who don't respect and understand themselves. So it's a train wreck almost. And you see it, and we think this is how relationships are supposed to be.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's all we've seen.
We have no good role models to model ourselves after.
Right. And you say, well, they did the best that they could, and they probably did. But we got to do better.
At a certain point, we have to normalize something else.
Better, man. You have to, you have to have a love for yourself where you look at your hands and you're thankful for your hands because they produce everything that you have.
Right.
You know what I mean?
They're your working tools.
Yeah.
These hands are your working tools, man. Right. And in different trades and whatever. These hands are the working tools that connect with that mind. Mm-hmm. The mind in these hands. This is all we got.
But we have more respect and appreciation for some Gucci shoes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or a certain type of chain or some Cartier glasses.
The funny thing about
more
that. More
respect for the glass than our eyes. You know what I'm saying?
Treat our clothes better than we treat our women.
Yeah.
Funny thing about that is I wear lavish shirts most of the time.
That's what time it is.
I wear my own brand. I to the point where people say, man, can you wear something different than a lavish shirt, man?
Not at
but
all.
That's what I feel like. I don't want to go out here and spend this money just for you to accept me. And I have a brand of my own. So just like you wearing their brand, you're letting people see you with their brand on. And me, I feel like I'm just going to wear my own brand. My brand is paying me. Their brand that you're buying, you're making them rich. Support me, buy my brand. And I don't even sell my shirts. I just give them away.
Right. Well, listen, I know we can talk about this topic all night because it's really that important, and it's so many different layers to really dissect. I know this is something that we're going to have to revisit because we have to normalize it. We have to make it a part of this new culture that we're trying to evolve into. Mm-hmm. My prayers is with the families that's still holding out hope for the best outcome with a lot of these missing women and youth that's right here in Detroit. My prayers is that men start to step up and really normalize and start protecting the women in the community and protecting the youth in the community. It is my prayers that leaders recommit to taking an even bolder stance and an even bolder stance in our community with encouraging other men like strongly encouraging other men to step up. That goes for the pastors and the preachers and the ministers and the directors and the leaders of our community. It is my prayer and it is my hope that men really start to step up. We have to do it together. It has to be a collective step in order for it to change, because those that are doing wrong are taking collective steps against what is right. So in order to change it, we have to really come together. We have to start talking about it. This should be conversations in every barbershop. This should be conversations in everybody's home. This should be conversations on the block. While guys standing on the block and talking, you should be talking about this. You should be making sure that the body of some young youth, some young woman, some young female is not behind the house you hustling at. Nor should you let anybody at any time hurt anyone. That can be your daughter. That can be your young sister. And every time anybody gets away with hurting a female, they're getting closer to hurting the women in your life. Because if it's not checked, more and more people are going to participate in that evil. So we have to stand up. We have to do what's right. Ain't nobody asking nobody to be some perfect righteous leader, although you should be striving for that. We're not asking for that. But it's time to start taking steps towards protecting our women, protecting our community, protecting all women. It's not just a black thing. All women. No one should let any woman be assaulted. Step up. Don't be afraid. Don't hold on to your own safety at the demise of someone else.
So let's decide today, as a group, these three brothers right here, to create a strategy, that would deal with it politically, dealing with our politicians, dealing with our churches, mosques, dealing with our schools, dealing with, the whole system, dealing with the hood. I think we can sit down and I think we can strategize in a way. You got some great groups out there that's doing some taking some steps. You got New Era, you got Detroit 300.
Big shout out to Zeke.
You got some groups that's doing some things. So now we got to add to it, and we have to just, really make a strategy to take care of things. So let's cover the schools. Let's cover the churches. Let's talk to the pastors. Let's expand the conversation, and we can sit down and write a 12-month plan.
Yeah, we do that.
And we just act out, and we call the people in the areas that we need them in and act out. You do those, you work in the political area, get legislations done. You work in the legal field. Everywhere we need to work at, we can do that. That's doing, instead of just talking about it, put a strategy and a work behind it. And we could come back here and give our reports.
Absolutely. Look at the numbers and see how we can affect them.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, no, I'm all for it, man. And I just want to tell everybody that's watching, because we're going to go ahead and end this. I just want to tell everybody, listen, that's watching, especially the men out there, we just need to start speaking up and surround yourself with other men that's going to speak up against some of the stuff, some of the wrongs that are wrong, but they're not speaking up. So we need more men to do that, and we need you to speak up, because we see it all the time. It's just that we actually need to stop just overlooking it or paying it no mind. It's not our business, and we don't necessarily have to put you on the spot. We can pull you to the side. Hey, man, that wasn't cool, man. Yep.
Or in some cases, just slap them. Some of these cats just need a whooping, and you straighten them out, and they straighten their behavior out, Each situation is different.
Yeah. But that's one thing, man. And then as far as, protecting these women, one of the biggest things that I hate seeing, and I know women, they have to do what they have to do, because, that's just the way life is. I personally, I don't like seeing women walking with children down the street, and I see it at night. They have to get from one place to the other. I don't know their situation. I don't know their finances. I don't know their family, because a lot of women also, and we didn't talk about it, a lot of women come from broken homes as well. But I just don't like that. And if I could see helping these women, but in today's world, it's kind of hard. You can't really pull up like you used to and say, let me give you a ride, because nowadays you got to worry about it. You giving me a ride being genuine, or you trying to kidnap me?
Right.
Right. I don't like to see women out there like that
But
because they're
see,
vulnerable.
you got the power, and we have the power to mandate some stuff, man.
Okay.
If they're giving money to offer Uber drivers to take drunk white people home from the bar, you know what I'm saying? We can have the same thing in our community, man, to help sisters who have children get from one place to the next. I mean, we could figure these things out, bro.
Yeah.
It ain't hard to do, man.
Right.
They're putting money where they want to put
And
it.
collectively, any acts that we ask for, people are more inclined to fulfill when it's a collective act.
Yeah, because they
Yeah.
know, just like it happened before, we'll burn it down, brother. That's, everything is one match away.
Yeah, we definitely got to do something because there's a lot of vulnerable women out there that's by themselves at night at these gas stations,
Yes, sir.
and I don't personally like to see it. But then again, the world that we live in is so hard to really approach them because the women, their guard is up, and then the times we live in is so dangerous. So it's like I don't know. I'm gonna take you to the house. Let me help you. I don't want to help you, but then you still got this dude that might pull up when he should have already been there. But because he's not doing his job as a man and you're willing to help this young lady get to safety, it might be there's so many different variables, man. It's just so many different variables. But we as men, we just got to do better all the way around.
Well, I like to come back and we revisit this. And like I said, I have a gas station owner who owns 7 gas stations who's committed to hiring full service employees from the time of 5 p.m. till close, which would make a gas station, for instance, a bit safer.
Right.
And we can begin pressuring gas stations to do better while at the same time creating our own, because we have to have alternatives. Like when we go protest a place and then send them to their brother down the street, that ain't the best look. We have to start creating our own too, so that we can help create a better environment, because that's what it is. It's the environment that we've allowed to be created that allows this disrespect to take place on a regular basis. So we got to, as men, change the environment.
True.
And one thing I'm going off the comment because we got to end. The B word. Someone inboxed me about the B word.
Any
the female dog
yeah,
word.
yeah, any language that's used to degrade, it's just really it's preemptive, because everything that comes after that is going to be from that standpoint. And
it might be a different conversation because it might be a mental thing, because you have women, that's their conversation. You have men, that's their I'm degrading her.
The oppressed become the oppressor. It was a time where nobody accepted that word.
Not at all.
But once you're beat over the head with it so much, you become the oppressor, and that's what we see in today's society.
You've been given the mind of your enemy, so you've become the enemy of yourself. You know what I mean? You've been given his mindset, so now you're an enemy to self. Right. You know what I mean? Slavery is a real thing. And our people took up a lot of things during slavery.
Yeah, and it still exists. It's just without change nowadays. Right. So we're gonna end this. I think it was a decent show. I want y'all feedback. You can go on the YouTube page or on the Facebook page, check out the video, like, subscribe, and share. I want to thank Minister Troy Muhammad for coming on the show.
Had to be on with the lavish one, brother.
You know what? We got Marvin Cotton, the Bigger Yard podcast.
That's right.
And then you got me, Lavish T. Williams. So thank everybody for watching, tuning in, and catch you on the next one.